Today we're going to talk about how to install the TFT 35 firmware while using the Octopus version 1.1. Now I'm going to skip a lot of stuff that I had talked about previously with how to install the TFT display, and I'll leave a link in the upper right hand corner for your convenience on how to install it. And then I'll talk about additional information today. So all we're going to do is learn how to upgrade the firmware. So the first thing that I want to show you is the actual web page for where you can find the firmware. So over here we have the BTT Tech touchscreen firmware. Now I've already downloaded it, but to download it you can click over here and say download zip. So now that you understand that, there is a few other things that I didn't cover in previous tutorials. Right now I'm just going to talk about the touchscreen mode and how to upgrade. But down below they give you a little bit of information on what to configure and how. Now, way down here, they actually talk about configurations and settings that you want to set in the Marlin firmware. So they talk about the minimum Marlin firmware, which is 2.0.81. Currently, we're on 2.0.91. And they talk about the EEPROM settings. That's how you communicate with the board to save settings. There's a rewritable ROM on the board. They also talk about how to set up different configurations, but I'm going to skip all this for now, but now you know where to refer to find the information. But down here they talk about connections. That's not what we're interested in today. We're actually interested in setting up different menu types. So this is the actual unified menu right here for displays, and then they have different ones. Currently I'm running the round miracle themed, so I'm going to talk about the unified menu and I'm going to talk about how to set it up. So I've already downloaded the firmware and I've actually copied it already over, but I'll show you what the process is right now. So over on the actual here on the desktop, I've already set it up and copied it over, but I'm going to show you the configuration. So I'm going to drop it in the drive over here for your convenience to watch this and plug it in like as follows. So back over on the desktop, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go to the folder where that is. So the display that I actually pulled down is actually right in the downloads folder where I've extracted it. And inside here, you can actually navigate to what's in here. So all you really need to copy over is this to the root of your drive. Now I already copied over the entire thing, so it's really easy to work with. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to copy over what we need. So in this case, we got to find the actual unified menu. So we're going to copy that and we're going to go to the root of the drive and paste it right here. Then we're going to go back over to here, and there's a couple other things that we need to copy. So in this case, we're working with the TFT 35. So we need to find the actual firmware. And so it's this one right here. So we're going to send it to the actual F drive. So that'll be on the root. We also need to copy over the configuration file, which is located right here. And then there's one for the language pack. So we need to pick a language if we're not using English. So you can see that they have several here, and within the last couple of days they added Hungarian, but we're using English, so we're going to copy this one over and send it to the drive. Hopefully I'm not copying Spanish over. There we go. So Spanish would be just below it, I believe. So now that we have that set up, let's go to the root of the drive. And unified menu theme, we need to go into this folder, and we also need to send the TFT 35 to the root of the drive as well. So now that those are all set, what we'll need to do is actually look inside these files. So there is a config.ini. We can open this up and actually look at it. If you're going to edit it in Notepad++. But as you can see down here, they have a bunch of configurations that you can set. So of these configurations, you'll see a bunch of interesting things like speed. Right now, the speed for the load is defaulted to a number 5, which is 115/200. But normally we want to do this at number 6. So we can change that real quick. And then there's other things you can configure having to do with your configuration and your preferences. But I've showed you a simple example of how to do it. If you want to change colors, you can find them up here. And then you just put the numerical entry in. And there's a bunch of other settings down below where you can actually set G-code commands to execute. So those would be down in here. And basically copying a nomenclature and then dropping it in may help, but you can also execute G-codes on the panel. So this is the actual command sets that you can add. And there are other ones that you can add as well in the custom sections. So you just have to emulate this type of setup. Where you see the /n, that's a carriage return. That's basically C and other languages use that to denote carriage return. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if you read through it, you'll see other settings. So now that we're all set with that, I'm actually not going to save the actual speed because I don't want to modify the file. The language file I'm going to leave alone for the moment, but I will show you how to set up the actual firmware if you actually want to compile it yourself. So if I go over to VScode, I can actually show you how to do this. So currently, I've got to get VScode to display for you here, so I'll just drag it over so you can see it. What you're going to do is you're going to go File, New Window, in this case, otherwise you're going to open a blank one. You're going to go to Explorer, then you're going to go to Open File, and inside here, if you go over to your Downloads folder, I've already extracted it, so I'm going to click once, twice, just like I've done before for Marlin, and select the folder. So inside here, it's the same process where you can click the checkbox to build, and you can also do a clean. Down here, they give you an example of what your default environment is going to be. Currently, it's on the one we're working with, but if you have other ones you want to set up, you can do that. In addition to that, there's actually a configuration file that's somewhere nested inside of here. So I'm not exactly sure where it is off the top of my head, but I'm guessing it's in here as configuration.h. So what we just went over for the actual configuration file earlier is actually where you can set these things as well. And then when you've found the configuration that you like, you can actually do a compile, and it will be located hopefully in your platform io.ini folder. So that's just a quick runabout about how to set this up and build it. There's not much to it. So if you get into actually programming it, there are other things that you can monkey around with. But for now, that's just a quick tutorial on how to do it. So I'm going to close that. I'm actually going to close this as well. And then I'm going to go over to the actual desktop in a moment and load the firmware and see what we get. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the workbench. And on the workbench, I'm actually going to take the USB out. I have it right here. So what I'm going to do is actually put this in here. As you can see, it recognizes the card. So we need to power down the system to actually load this. So I'm going to pull the power here. Then I'm going to plug it back in. And as you can see, it's going to start to load. So it's probably going to load the default configuration, not the unified one. But you know how to actually change it now. So we'll just give this a moment to load. And as you can see right now, it's loading the fonts. And it's talking about the update that's occurring percentage-wise. Now you can do custom fonts. And if you'd like, I'll do a tutorial on that in the future. But this is just to show you how to initially set this up. Now there will be possibly a prompt that occurs that asks you to touch the actual display in certain places. If this occurs, I like to use one of my hex wrenches to actually deal with it because my finger seems to be too large to actually press the position markers. So this is getting pretty close to being almost done with the first portion of the load. Once this completes, we're going to see probably some other stuff loading, such as the binary. So right now it's updating logos apparently. Once that's completed, this is where you actually can do custom logos if you so choose. But there's another process involved where you actually take your image and modify it to the specs that they have for their image sizes. So once this is finished, it's probably going to boot up in a second, and I'll actually show you the drive and what occurs on it as well towards the end of the tutorial. So there are a lot of fonts to actually load, or icons, pardon me. But it looks like we're getting pretty close to finishing up here. Just so you know, I've set the speed in the actual firmware for this to be 250,000 bits per second. So this will be out of sync because I did not modify the file and save it. But as you can see, everything is now loaded. And I didn't have to touch the actual places on the panel where it instructs. But now you can see that the issue is that it's no printer attached. So in order to change that, you can go to Menu, then you can go to Settings, then you can go to Connection, Baud Rate, change it to 250,000, then go back, 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 and now that issue is gone. You do want to remove this so it doesn't try and reload, but they've actually put in things that will stop that from occurring. And I'll show you that in just a second. So essentially we're going to drop the drive back in so you can see what occurred. So over on my desktop, as you can see, we're going to go to the drive. And inside here you see how it says .cur, .cur, and .cur. That means that it's actually loaded. It's not a cursor file, but it's saying current. So the good thing about this is if you want to reload something, you can rename it to .bin in this case, and then whatever file type these were, in this case, you take the cur off and the cur off here in order to use these. So if you like my tutorial, please press the like button and subscribe, and thank you for your time.